Everybody, welcome to the MenoLounge. I'm Julie Gordon-White, CEO of MenoWell. I'm so excited to have you on Tuesday. You know that. I look forward to sharing something new with you every single week with somebody that is amazing. And today, as usual, our Barb Sobel, our clinical nutritionist. We are demystifying metabolic syndrome, which we know what metabolism is, but then we don't what is that? So of course, we're going to bring Barb up. So hi, everybody. Great to see you here, popping in. Barb is hopping on. Here she comes. Notice I'm wearing my glasses today. I got new glasses, so I'm taking them for a test drive. You there, Barb?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I can see you. I didn't have your audio. Okay, good. Oh, you're wearing your glasses. I said I've got new glasses, so I'm taking them for a test drive because I usually wear contacts. So
Okay, last week I did, or 2 weeks ago, I did this really cool test with these drops and a different prescription of contacts, so you don't need reading glasses.
Oh,
But it's not 100%.
okay.
The best system for me right now, I am intrigued and I'm going to follow it. But the eye drops you have to put in burn a little bit, and it only lasts 10 hours. And then I was like sort of stuck at the end of the day.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
but it's kind of amazing.
that sounds like a
Luckily,
new episode of the MenoLounge about
midlife
vision and all the tools and tips. Okay, true confessions. I have, I don't know, you can't really see. I have Coke bottles basically for glasses. So, I have bifocals, but they're the progressive kind, so you can't really see.
I have that in my contacts, and then I
Yeah.
have to wear reading glasses on top. So this would be to get rid of the reading glasses, but whatever. Yeah.
Oh my God. Is
I
this
know,
impacted by the metabolic system? Is this part of metabolic syndrome or not?
I don't think so.
Okay, just checking. All right. Okay, metabolic syndrome. We are demystifying it. We know that, I was saying earlier, we know what metabolism is. We talk about our metabolism all the time, but as we become more informed, we hear metabolic as a term and then syndrome. And today we're just here. It's kind of like a 101, breaking it down. This is what we talk about in MenoWell world all the time. And I said, Barb, let's share this. We've talked about it before, but let's share this in a really easy way for everyone to get their arms around. So let's just start at the very top. Okay. Tell us, share in the best, easy to explain science words, what metabolic syndrome is, Barb.
Okay. First of all, I want to start with syndrome. Syndrome is a collection of symptoms. So we have metabolic syndrome, which we're going to get into, but we also have irritable bowel syndrome. That's something we hear a lot. It's not one diagnosable disease. It's a collection of different imbalances. And so it can look different for different people. That's kind of the main point. And it's metabolic, but it doesn't really have to do with metabolism in the way we think of my metabolism is slow and I am gaining weight, right? We think of, my energy is down, my metabolism might be slow. So it's a little different. It's more of the big kind of metabolism, metabolic, and it looks at sort of the whole body. So there are 5 different conditions that can, they're sort of clusters that travel together. And I'm looking at my notes so I get the numbers right. It's elevated fasting blood sugar, which is over 100, high blood pressure, 130 over 85, high triglycerides, which is a measure of fat in our blood, and that's for women 150 milligrams per deciliters or above. Low HDL cholesterol, which is considered the good cholesterol. I mean, there's good and bad in all, but when we talk about that, that's the one we want to see higher. So when that one's too low, below 50, that's an issue. And then the size of your waist, which we talk about a lot, that you want, women want their waist size below 35 inches and men below 40 inches. And we talk about that with insulin resistance a lot. And that is something you can measure at home, right? And the other things, there's a couple workarounds. You certainly could test your blood pressure at home. A lot of people do that, especially if they have high blood pressure. Fasting blood sugar, standard lab that you get done every year. It just shows you that point in time, but you could get a continuous glucose monitor. You could do finger pricks. You could figure that out at home. So what metabolic syndrome is when you have three of these. And, you know, any one of these, you might be kind of on your doctor's watch list, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I see getting missed in traditional medicine is no one's looking at the whole picture. And if you have three of these or four of these or five of these, you're at risk, a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, which we know is the number one cause of death for women.
Right.
And you're at higher risk of diabetes, pretty increased, like 5 times more risk. So it's not any one of these that's the magic thing. It's the combination that makes it so critical.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people don't look at them together because that's where the increased risk really is.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah.
That was so good. It was just so clear to understand that metabolic is the bigger umbrella of these 5 different things, and syndrome is a collection. So it's a collection of 3 or more of these pieces of our metabolic system that may or may not be operating the way we want them to be.
Right. And it could look different. You know, I could have fasting blood sugar, high triglycerides, and an increased waist circumference. And you could have high blood pressure, high, you know, cholesterol, high HDL, and high triglycerides, and it would look different, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, but I think the thing that's really interesting about metabolic syndrome is there's a lot we can do with diet and lifestyle to help unwind this a little bit.
Right.
And it's really interesting how men are more at risk of metabolic syndrome when they're a little bit younger, and post-menopause, when our estrogen decreases, and our estrogen is very anti-inflammatory. It helps us keep our blood sugar more regulated. When that starts to decline, we see the increase in women risk of metabolic syndrome equal that of men.
Right. We go to where men are because our estrogen levels are about the same, basically.
Right.
So let's tie that in. So is that why women have more issues with metabolic syndrome? One of those 5 things, because in post-menopause, perimenopause, post-menopause, when we have all the fluctuations, post when, if before hormone therapy, we don't have estrogen and progesterone in our system. Is that why we have more issues, metabolic issues in menopause?
Yeah. I mean, think about how our bodies change. We can't feel high blood pressure. We always talk about that being the silent killer, right? We can't feel triglycerides. We can't feel cholesterol. We sometimes can feel our blood sugar. We certainly can feel it if it's low, right? If it's high, we can't really feel it, but we can measure it pretty easily. But our waist, that's one of the things that we, you know, as women all complain about. What is happening to my body size?
Right.
I used to have a waist and it's completely gone. And so that's a sign of insulin resistance. We get that increase in visceral fat and belly fat. And so that it really, we don't have that protection of estrogen. We have changes in our microbiome, which we talked about on our last MenoLounge. And we have changes in, all of us. And it's not just hot flashes, night sweats. What's happening inside can have really profound effects on our health.
Yeah, huge. Well, because waist size is something that we can notice and
Yeah.
feel, where some of the other markers of, let's say, dysfunction in our metabolic health, we cannot,
Right.
other than actual testing. And so, how big of a lever is that? So, when we're focusing on nutrition, keeping our waist size under 35 inches if you're a woman, and of course, exercise, moving our body, etc. How big of a lever is that moving towards
Well,
insulin
it's huge,
resistance in our
right? It's
metabolic
huge
health?
because when our waist size increases, we are gaining fat in our, you know, in the center
Abdominal
of our body.
area. Yeah.
Yeah. And that fat is going around our organs. So it's going around our liver, our kidneys, all sorts of stuff. The more fat we have around the liver, the more fat is going in our liver. That's going to affect our cholesterol levels, right? It's going to contribute to things like fatty liver disease. So it makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there's 4 other markers, right? But we're increasing that visceral fat puts us at risk of increased cardiovascular disease.
Right.
On its own.
That's the conversation, well, we are always having. That's the conversation around having a lot of fiber in your diet to help manage those cravings. And yeah, I always say, yeah, of course I want to look good in my jeans, absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to wear my
It's
jeans
more
every day of
than
my life.
you're more at risk of diabetes. It's like it
Heart disease.
matters for your long-term health, right?
Right.
And you might be okay at 50 or 60, and diabetes could be a slow progression of pre-diabetes for a long time, but once you go over that mark, that you have to do treatment, and there's a lot of other risks associated with that as well, long-term health markers and things like that.
Yeah, it's so important. And I just want to reframe all of this out of this sort of shaming conversation that we, especially those of us who are postmenopausal now, have grown up in that 80s diet culture. But the truth is, it lasts forever. I don't care how old you are. It's just embedded, it's right here. Like,
yeah,
always talking to us. But in some ways, if we can reframe it and embrace the benefit of that voice, and that is to keep us alive and healthy, to protect our heart, to protect the whole metabolic system. And
right.
so it's like and we don't want to be skinny, we want to be strong.
So we want
And
to be strong, we want to keep our bones strong, right?
Right.
That might mean the scale is more than it was when we were 30.
Right.
But it still means that you can't just look at the scale. You have to look at your body composition as you get older, right? Have you gained weight in your waist, or are your thighs and your arms stronger, that you have more muscle, right? Do you have muscles that you've never had before? That is a different conversation. It really depends where that weight is in your body, right? And most of us, we are going to gain weight post-menopause. Then the natural thing would be around the middle. The trick for us is, how can we change our diet and our lifestyle so that if we have weight gain, it's in more a healthy way.
Right.
So we want strong bones, we want strong muscles, we want to have enough vitality that will keep us as we age and naturally lose muscle.
Right. And muscle is metabolically active, right? It takes a lot of energy to manage muscle. So those are some ways that we can help impact that. But also getting ahead of it. We hear our customers always talking about they love a MenoWell bar because the cravings, right? Just that sugar cravings are crazy as our hormones are fluctuating. And then it does not go away post-menopausal. So
Right.
doing things
Yeah.
to get ahead of those cravings, eating a lot of green vegetables, a high fiber diet, a
Good
high
protein.
protein
Yeah.
diet, all of those things keep us satisfied and
And
ahead
then
of those
making
cravings.
really smart choices about what, if you want to splurge and when you have those fun foods, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
one thing to go have, your favorite cookie. If you have it in the middle of the afternoon, it's going to spike your blood sugar and make your insulin go up. If you have it after a meal or right before you go for a walk, you can do some things to tweak it so that your blood sugar response is not so intense.
Right,
So
right.
it's being more mindful of how you're doing what you're doing.
More mindful. It's funny because my husband, I actually got him on this. He takes creatine gummies. And okay, great, but he takes them at night, like right before he goes to
Yeah.
bed. I'm like, no, that's not the time to take those. You're making your glucose go through the roof with those
Right.
things.
Right. Yeah.
So just the
Yeah.
timing of food, and I'm not a huge food timing person. People can get extremely obsessive, but it's pairing those sweeter things, even if it's something that's good for you, like a gummy, with something else, so we're not impacting our sugar, our glucose response, because that just sets
Right.
us up
I
for
mean, as much, everything we eat can affect our glucose, and
right,
that's
which we
there's
need
a
it to,
normal
but not
response, but there's not a, you know,
go
um,
up and stay up versus a
right.
nice hump that with a
Right. Or
balanced food.
spiking up and down all day.
Right.
And I think, some of the lifestyle things like sleep, which is really challenging for people in peri menopause, post-menopause, that doesn't seem to change so much. Um, we have, when we don't sleep well, our body interprets that as stress, and we tend to want to eat more, especially the high carb, high sugar foods, because we're seeking energy. And, sometimes we just need to take a nap if we can.
Right.
But being conscious of that and how not getting enough sleep affects our food choices later on can be a real light bulb moment for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, white knuckling it doesn't help. It really is listening to our body and then honoring that
Right.
and looking what we really need. Like, we might not need a sweet, we might need sleep.
Yes. Or water.
Yeah, or water. Yeah. Or
I
to
find
like
that
take a five
often.
minute break because everything is just coming at us too
Right.
fast.
Right. Some
Right. And then so
breath.
if you can see that, you don't have to rely so much on willpower, which we all know by the end of the day, we don't have any because we're
Right.
tired.
Well, and we know for Harvard study on decision fatigue.
Yeah.
So that's why we're black every day. It makes it a lot easier. No.
Yeah.
Uh,
Except when
psych-
you're wearing purple.
right. Except for when I'm wearing purple. Like those are the two go-tos. I have two drawers. Tick, sleeves, no sleeves.
Yeah.
But all of those things help reserve energy for later on. But you said a really important word, Barb, and that's willpower. As midlife women, as peri to post, especially post, or maybe all the stages, but we tend to really get down on ourselves about willpower, and we just want
Yeah.
to muscle through the cravings, muscle through eating too few calories or whatever we're doing. But I think it's so important to put a spotlight on the fact that it's not about willpower. It's about our metabolic system as it changes as we age, as we go through menopause. So we
Yeah.
got to really understand these levers, because just 500 calories less is not the same
Right.
as it used to
Right.
be, and it's so different, and it's not about the willpower to do that.
Right, right. And I mean, I'm sure you in your 20s thought like eating popcorn for dinner was, a
Yeah,
great way to
in
keep
a
your
diet
calories
coke.
low, right? I mean, and for a lot of people that it really spikes their blood sugar. And yeah, it has some fiber, but it doesn't have any protein. It's completely different in how your
Mm-hmm.
body responds. We get information from our food,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes even more important as we get older and we have a little bit less flexibility in our
Mm-hmm.
systems.
Mm. Really
especially
important. I just
post-menopause.
want to make sure we get that it's, I'm cautious about this. It's not our fault thing, because this it's not about fault. It's just, this is what it is. So we need
Yeah,
to educate ourselves and understand, because sometimes I think when we say it's not our fault, then we're a victim, and we are far from victims, ladies,
yeah,
right? That's not what we are. But it's okay to frame it that way, but just know we're not a victim. We just need education on how we can understand our bodies better and then make decisions that support who our body is, what our body is now, than how we used to do it
right.
before.
And understanding that, we go through different stages in life, and our physiology adapts to that, right? When
Mhm.
we're infants, we double in size really quickly. We are grow, 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 grow,
We
grow,
want,
right?
right, back in the day, we want to get bigger, right?
Exactly, exactly. Remember, you always wanted to be taller or bigger. There was a sign because you go
Stronger,
to
bigger,
ride
right?
and you got to get taller, right?
So you could get on the rides. That's what
Yeah,
I want. I
exactly.
barely make it now.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one phase. And, as we move through menopause, we have a long, hopefully a really long life after that period. And we have different, it's
Yeah.
not good or bad, but just different things going on in our biology. And we need to just pay attention to that and optimize how we do what we do so that we can really feel good as we go through our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, beyond.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's a good segue, Barb. So if someone is watching this, a woman who's menopausal is watching this, and she's like, my waist is bigger than I want it to be, which makes me worried that I know I'm at risk for a cardiac situation, or I just don't feel good. I don't feel like myself. What is couple of things that she can do right now that, we talk about on our
Yeah,
Slack and our
yeah,
team, to
yeah,
get her sort of turned around without feeling overwhelmed by so many things? Because I feel like you watch social media now and you're like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. It's like too much. So what are a couple of power things she can do to start shifting her metabolic situation to
yeah.
more
So,
positive?
okay, I'm going to start with nutrition because I'm a nutritionist, right? Woo!
Right?
So the first thing we can do is really work on balancing our blood sugar. And we have normal like rolling hills and valleys during the day, and that's normal. When we eat and when we don't eat, it goes down. We don't want to have big spikes and then crashes, and big spikes and crashes. That changes our energy a lot, and that really contributes to insulin being pushed out all the time. So the way to have really blunt some of those spikes, add a lot of fiber to your diet, eat good protein with your meals, and we don't want to be eating constantly nibbling all day. I think having really defined meals and snacks can make a big difference.
And
you
why
know
is that? Yeah.
well, because every time we eat, our glucose goes up, and our body responds by putting insulin in to pull that out.
Right.
And if we're nibbling all day, we're constantly pushing that insulin out. If we eat 3 meals, maybe one snack in there, then our blood sugar goes up. We have a couple hours, it comes down, the insulin, calms back down, doesn't, and then we have a rest, and then we do it again. And I think that can make a really big difference. And the things that make us stay full for a few hours are protein and fiber, right?
Right.
And really, I think having a snack is, for many people, really important. If we eat lunch at 12 or 1 and we don't eat dinner till 6 or 7, that's like a really long time. It might be too long to go without our energy dipping, getting cranky, and we don't want to be in a situation where we're so hungry that we overeat at our meals either.
Right.
So having an
Right.
intentional snack that's has some protein and fiber in it can be really helpful. It can also help
Absolutely.
you kind of reach your goals if you don't quite hit them at your meals.
Well, we happen to know a really good snack. That's
I know. I
perfect.
can see it right behind you. But I
Little
see that cuts
famous
down
family.
on overnight eating as well.
Yeah.
I mean, late night, not overnight, late night
Late night
eating.
eating. Right.
And in that late night eating after dinner, you're usually sitting and watching a movie or TV or something. And we don't get as big of a fasting window either, where we really let all of our systems rest.
Got to
So
have that 12 hours, right? So
yeah,
I find that if for whatever reason, probably because it's a Friday and we're up later watching a movie and I'm having a Greek yogurt with maybe a little protein powder in there to bump up the protein and blueberries on top, but it's still 9 o'clock. I'm still eating where normally I would have
yeah,
stopped eating around 7:30. I just push my 12-hour window, right? So that
yeah,
means I don't start eating again until whenever I stopped eating,
yeah.
9:30
Yeah, which
to
is easier
9:30.
on the weekends. You know, it depends on your work schedule and your family schedule and
Right.
whatever. And you know, that's another thing. I think that's something to aim for, but I wouldn't completely stress about it because your body doesn't really know 11 and a half hours from.
Yes, it does. Mine does. It tells
we,
me, let's
we
go. We're
want we want
starving.
to stress less, and so if that is, you know, so
No, you're right.
don't let it stress you more, right?
Don't we that's one thing we want to stay away from is stress
Yeah,
because talk about wreaking havoc in the menopausal body and our metabolic dysfunction really. And I worry this is like I think we should just talk about this on another episode, but about chronic stress
absolutely.
because that's the underlying thing that we are so used to being in a heightened state that we don't even notice it. And what is that doing to our bodies? How is that impacting our metabolic system and health? So,
Yeah,
what do you think? We'll do that next time.
absolutely. We want to talk about that.
Fill
Absolutely. So
fill
I
me in.
think, in terms of metabolic syndrome,
Yeah.
it doesn't always get diagnosed. There are these 5 criteria. The elevated fasting blood sugar, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, and increased waist circumference. And it's something to definitely talk to a healthcare provider about if you suspect that you have it and they have not brought it up, because you do have this increased risk. And, you can't really feel this. Any one or two of these, you might not flag as like, oh my God, you have a disease. We have to do something right away, especially with the elevated fasting blood sugar. Kind of in the conventional world, doctors sort of wait till you get to diabetes,
Right.
instead of when you catch things earlier, you have a lot more flexibility. You can do more, especially with diet and lifestyle. And so it's something to be aware of because you could have increased risk and not even know about it.
And these are regular labs that you can get from your
Absolutely
regular
regular.
doctor at
Yeah,
least once a year. But I ask more often,
yeah.
twice a year, or some
And
people get them quarterly.
blood pressure, they used to have machines and stuff in the drugstores, but there's a lot of places you can get it.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to go to your doctor. You can buy your own thing and
Hmm.
do it at home.
Keep track of it.
Yeah, it keeps us
Really,
keep track
really
of the
important.
time. Yeah, yeah,
And if hormone therapy is a choice that you're making or thinking about it, that speak to your own doctor. Neither Barbara and I are doctors, but adding estrogen, adding hormones back in your body is a beneficial thing. But that doesn't mean that we aren't still at risk of metabolic syndrome.
right.
So,
And we still have to do diet and lifestyle.
right.
But what estrogen replacement can do is help lower inflammation, sort of, which can help bring some of these things down.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have to do diet and lifestyle. But it
At the
can
end of
be
the
a big
day,
marker. I mean, a big help.
nutrition
Yeah.
and lifestyle are, I always tell every woman I speak to that nutrition is your number one lever. It's the
Yeah.
one thing we can actually control. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course movement as well, but we have to eat. You don't have to actually move, right? You just move
Right.
around your house, all that. But but we do have to eat, and that's where all our power is. And that's why I say, we have to take our bodies back, and it starts by our nutrition, being so intentional about what we put in our mouth.
And I think emphasizing intentional versus perfect is really important, because there's lots of ways that we can eat and lots of ways we can get to what we need to nourish our bodies. And if you have one of these things, you might need to tweak it a little bit, but it's doable.
Right. But know what it is. And that was the whole purpose of our conversation.
Know what it is, and know, it's one thing to read a statistic about heart disease being the #1 killer of women. Until it hits you, it's so amorphous, right? So this can put some context about your body and your own risk.
I love that. Is there anything as we wrap that you want to share that we didn't talk about that you want women to know? About their metabolic system?
I think we did a really good job. I think of metabolic syndrome, that old song, the hip bones connected to the leg bone, connected to the backbone, whatever it is. I kind of feel like metabolic syndrome reminds me that we are not a collection of different systems. We're a collection of intertwined systems, right? And our cardiovascular system, our hormones, our, our gut, our liver, they're all connected. Our endocrine system, everything is connected.
Yes.
Yeah. And we benefit when we think about our whole body together. And so many of these interventions, protein and fiber and sleep and movement, we talk about them with everything, right?
Right. It seems like
we're really affect because we're all connected. Yeah.
Right. We're redundant for a reason.
Exactly.
Connected.
Exactly. So I think it's that just connection of these systems and of our body as one whole big thing really is what's important.
I love it. And I'm going to
don't have to go eating a whole bunch of special heart health food, a special blood pressure food, a special, blood sugar food. Look at the whole first.
Yes. I love that. The whole, the collection. I think that's the word of the day. It's the collection. Collection of symptoms, collection of parts of the body, parts of the function that our body goes through. So collection.
Awesome.
Really good.
Collection. Yeah. Word of the day. Collection. I'll be thinking about that all day.
I know. We talk about these things all the time, but I just like the simple framing of it. Really good. So we understand ourselves better. So we can menopause like a boss, like all the things.
Exactly.
All right. Barb, thank you.
Yeah, like your glasses.
Oh, thanks. They keep kind of sliding down. You get something new, you're just playing with it.
Yeah, you gotta go get them tightened or whatever.
Tighten a little bit, but it's nice to give your eyeballs a break. No context.
It is. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, MenoWell. See you all next time. Okay. Bye.